Welcome back. In part 1 of my conversation with codependency coach and podcaster, Alyssa Zander, we laid the groundwork for understanding how grief and codependency can intersect. If you are just joining us, I highly recommend going back to listen to part 1 before continuing on. Now, in part 2, Alyssa invites us to witness a deeply personal shadow work practice involving her own journey with very current grief. And this interview takes me to an unexpected place that I truly was not anticipating. It's raw, vulnerable, and ultimately an incredibly moving discussion. So, let's dive back in. This is Nothing Happens for a Reason. You mentioned that there might be some benefit of being able to explore your approach with codependency and in turn the connection with the grief part of it.
Right. Yeah, I'm kind of moving through my own grief portal right now. Realized very recently in the past few months this attachment I have to motherhood. Justin and I have been trying to conceive for 5 years. And so it's been this roller coaster of emotions over the last few years. And I finally sat down with this shadow work prompt. I'm not a mother then. And I looked at it and I was like, I don't want to fucking answer this question. Like, I don't want to know, you know?
Wow.
But I sat with it. And it's been a huge unfolding, and this feeling just washed over me. And I was like, I just want to put all this down. Like just really seeing how this conception journey has been the thief of my joy. Like, I haven't sat with my grief yet around this. And so I was just going to walk you guys through what I would do, because I'm going to do this regardless.
Yeah.
I'm going to either do it here with you guys or I'm going to do it at home.
I love it.
So the first question I would ask myself is, where does this grief live in my body? And so I'm just going to take a few deep breaths. And I'm going to think about this journey of motherhood. I'm going to think about that thought, like, who am I if I'm not this? And where does this grief live in my body? And what does it look like? And what does it feel like? And what I'm trying to notice is if there's a color, and you could do this too if you feel called. Is there a color? Is there a shape? Is there a density? And so what I'm feeling and I'm seeing is like a cloud, and it kind of lives near, like, under my chin, under, like, near my throat and my chest, like my heart space. And it feels very big, actually. Like, it expands out past my shoulders. And it doesn't feel heavy, but it feels like it takes up a lot of space. It's a cloud, so it feels like that sort of airy, etheric sort of feeling. And I'm feeling like tears kind of come to my eyes. Like, there is this sadness. And this is where we kind of like shut it down. But what I'm going to invite myself to do is to sit with it without trying to change it, without trying to fix it, without trying to make it go away. And then on my next breath, I'm going to allow myself to expand it out and intensify it even more, just making it bigger. And I'm going to notice any fears or thoughts that come to my mind. And the first thing I hear is no, 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 no. I feel like I see a very young version of me screaming, like cry screaming, like you would if you were like terrified, you know, or like, it's not terrified. It's like, my story. It's like not listened to, right? Like hear me. I'm not trying to change anything or fix it or make it go away. I'm just noticing. And then on my next breath, I'm going to expand it out and intensify it a little more. And now that version of me that I was seeing was kind of like a tantrum before, but now it just feels like deep sadness. And she's like curled up on the floor. I don't know the environment that she's in. Sometimes a memory might pop up for you, and that's okay. I see her like on a hard, cold floor. And so then I would ask myself, how old is this part of me? I hear like 2 or 3. And so now I'm imagining myself approaching her. And she's like laying on the floor, like in fetal position. So I'm going to lay down next to her on the floor. And she looks at me, and I'm just going to tell her I see her. She like snuggles up to me, like she's like inching closer to me. And so now I'm holding her. And she's not crying anymore. And now I'm going to go into the inner child practice. I'm going to ask her, what does she want? And I just hear to be held. And so I'm holding her. I tell her I'm holding her. And now I'm going to ask her, what does she need? I hear to get out of here. I tell her, I hear her. You want to get out of here. We always want to validate. And then I ask her, how will she feel when she gets that need met? I hear like I can breathe, freedom, light. So now I'm going to let her know how old I am. When we're doing this inner work, this reminds me of like parts work, right? Like they don't know how old we are. They think we're still that age, stuck in that time. So I tell her how old I am. And I'm sorry she's been stuck here for all these years. That I see her and I want to bring her with me if she's willing to go. And now she's kind of like silly. She's like, yeah, I told you I want to get out of here. She's kind of like popping up, kind of like pulling me almost, like, okay, get up, get off the floor, let's go. And so I take her hand and I'm imagining taking her to a safe place. And I always tell people who I do this work with and myself, it can be a place that you've been before, a place that you make up in your imagination, a beautiful place in nature perhaps. And I tend to take these parts of me to this, not always, but it's often this like fairy garden. It's got this like creek, a large boulder. It's like fairies flying around, flowers. And she looks just like very in awe, like very excited. She's like chasing the butterflies. And so now I ask her if she's ready to release this grief that maybe she's been holding on to, this deep inner sadness. Thanking her for holding it for me for all these years. For her courage and her strength to hold this. That she doesn't need to hold it anymore. And this part seems very ready. Sometimes they're hesitant. Like, okay, well, who am I if I'm not holding this, right? They're hesitant. You just validate them. It makes sense why you want to hold on to it. I see you. But this part of me is like ready. Like she's like, get it out. So then I ask her if she wants to release it to earth, water, fire, air. And I hear water, and she's like now diving into the little creek. And she's splashing around, rolling around. I'm just watching all the places where she was holding that grief just leave her body through the water. I'm almost seeing the water kind of turn like cloudy as it leaves her body. And now she's climbing out of the water. And one of my old mentors always said, you know, if we empty something, we want to always intentionally fill it. So I'm just going to imagine a beam of light coming down from source, filling her up with love, all the places where she was holding this burden of grief in her body, in her bones, in her cells. I'm just seeing her like light up. She was already feeling very light, even just taking her to this safe place. And I'm going to ask her what she wants her new job to be. And I just hear play. And she's chasing the butterflies, and she's like, she's like, doesn't need me anymore. She's like, I'm good. And sometimes this happens, and it's obviously nice when it's easeful like this, but sometimes it's not. So I just want to name that if there's like hesitancy or resistance or fear or doubt that comes up, that's normal too. So I just remind her that her new job is to play, and that if she ever needs me, that she lives in this safe place in my heart space. And again, thanking her for all the years, all the moments that she held this grief for me. And that I'm going to be here to take care of her now. And she can just play. I'm imagining myself giving her a hug, just sealing it all in. Watching her go off and play. I'm coming back into my body, coming back into this room. Moving my fingers and toes. And opening my eyes when I'm ready. Hi.
Hi. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks for witnessing me in it.
Yeah. How was that for you?
It was really neat, actually. You know, I don't know what to expect in those moments.
Yeah.
It's not always that easy. I'm grateful that it was. Especially after the last few of these I've done, they've been really hard, the hardest that I've ever had to sit with. They've been very mean, very like, aggressive's the wrong word, but like, who the fuck do you think you are? You think you can hold me? Yeah, right. You know, like very much like that. Which I was like, okay, if we're gonna go there, like today, you guys are gonna see it. But I feel relieved that it was that soft. I was nervous about it because it is grief, right? So it just goes to show that like you never know unless you just take a moment to really be with it. I know before we hit record, you had shared, if you're okay with me sharing, about like sometimes there's nothing there, right? Like we tap into our body, where does it live in our body, and we just don't feel anything. And that happens to me too sometimes. So it happens less now that I do this so often. I guess I should name so often. Like, what is so often? I probably do this once a month, if not more. It really depends. And then there are seasons where I don't do it for months, right? But if I'm ever stuck in something, I know that that's my invitation to do this inner work. I feel like it was sad to see her on the ground crying. It was nice to lay on the ground next to her and see her immediately like come up to me, because sometimes that doesn't happen either. Sometimes they don't trust us, so they actually like pull back. So I think for me, it's really neat to see the evolution of this work the more I show up for it.
Yeah. Do you mind just running through, again, those questions you asked to yourself, just in case people want to jot them down as they're listening? Yeah,
they're the same every time. And maybe we can link the Shadow Work and Inner Child guide. I have a free Shadow Work and Inner Child guide that literally has these questions laid out, so you can print it and just use it again and again. The first question is, where does this live in my body? So I usually do shadow work first, but just kind of figuring out what the fear is of whatever it is that you're experiencing, or the story that maybe is looping in your head. So for me, I just did the overarching like grief. Where does this live in my body? What does it look and feel like? So a noticing practice of the sensations, the somatic experience of that grief, or whatever it is that you're experiencing in your body. So when we talk about somatics, you want to think about senses. So sight, like what does it look like? Does it have a color? Does it have a shape? Does it have a texture? Does it have a smell? And so just trying to get or pull as many sensations as possible without trying to change it. What I always find really interesting is when you sit with it. I try to sit with it for, a few breaths, and then it's expanding it or intensifying it. And that is always really illuminating for me. Like I think I had said, what I was hearing was no, 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 right? Which is the resistance, which is like, this isn't safe, don't do this. And really just, again, noticing it. So oftentimes, that's where we shut it down and we're like, okay, this is too hard, I don't want to do this. Or we're afraid, so we immediately avoid it. So I usually do that for a couple rounds, expanding it out, just noticing, and then expanding it out again and just noticing. And what was interesting in my expanding it out today is I saw that version of me. So it doesn't always come in right away. It did today for whatever reason. And then asking, how old is this part of me? After you ask how old that part of you is, just imagining yourself as at that age. So maybe you see yourself at that age initially, and that's why you're able to pick up the age, or maybe you just hear 16, and then you can imagine yourself at 16. And so when I invite clients to imagine themselves at that age, oftentimes a memory comes up. Not every time, but what was interesting today is like I saw her almost on like a hardwood floor, like the ones in this room that we're in. And I didn't grow up with hardwood floors. So I was like, it wasn't a memory, but I could see that she was on a hardwood floor.
Yeah.
And so if they're in a memory, I'm usually just like, what do you notice? What do you notice about the room that she's in? And how do they seem? Right? So she today was crying. She seemed like tantrumy. So how old is this part of me? How does she seem? What do you notice about the environment that she's in? And then we go into the inner child healing. What does she want? So asking her, I see you. What do you want? And then next, what do you need? And then how will you feel when you get that need met? And so the how will you feel when you get that need met can be really helpful. Because whatever is uncovered there gets to kind of be your little nugget that you get to take with you in your day-to-day. What brings me that felt sense that I do throughout the day? So she said light, free. So I'm going to think today and maybe throughout the week, what are some things that I do or that I'd like to do that bring me that felt sense? So like things that help me feel light are going out for walks outside. That makes me feel really light. Some other things that make me feel light are like singing in my car or like having little dance parties. Baking helps me feel really like light and free, and playful. So I'll probably do some of those things and just like have that in the back of my mind of like, let this be in honor of integrating this part of me, because that's what we're doing. We're bringing them home. We're bringing this part of us home, and we want to create a loving, safe, like nourishing home for that part of us.
Yeah.
Oftentimes what ends up happening is like we do that work and we're like, okay, we're done with it.
Yeah.
It's like inviting someone to your house and then being like, all right, see you later.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't do that to a guest. You wouldn't do that to your child. Okay, have fun. See you later.
Yeah.
But that's what we end up doing to these parts of us. And then, at the end, I let her know, you live in this safe place in my heart space. If you ever need me, to call and I'll be there. Her call is that grief. Whenever I'm feeling that grief, that's her saying, hey, come be with me. Right?
Yeah.
Hey, come pay attention. Hey, come see me. And I think that the misconception or the thing that we think is like, oh, I did this practice, so now I'm not going to feel grief. I'm going to be free from my grief.
That'd be nice.
Right? I used to do it because I thought that's what I would get, right? And then you realize like, oh, that's just me trying to control my discomfort again. And what ended up happening when I was believing that thought was that I got to perpetuate the story that I didn't do it good enough. I didn't heal good enough. It just perpetuated my not good enough wound. So it was like, oh, actually, it doesn't mean that I didn't do the practice good enough. It just means that it's here for me to nourish and nurture and continue to build this intimate relationship with this part of me.
Yeah. Yeah, be more intentional with the healing that comes up around it.
Exactly.
That's why, I often make sure I'm saying like healing, ing. I don't know if I've ever in my career, in my own personal life, has said like healed. Because for me, it's just ongoing. Right. And again, it shifts and evolves and changes. And there's not like a finish line.
Yeah. When people are like, I healed my codependency, I'm like,
You're like, can you tell me how you did that? Because I didn't think that was possible.
I'm open to that happening for me. But it's just like anyone saying like, oh, I'm healed from that. Yeah. It's just like, that just means that you're unwilling to take it to the depths. Like healing is infinite.
Yeah.
Because love is infinite, because being is infinite. So saying like, I'm done with something, like it just means that you're cutting yourself off from deeper layers or levels of being.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And sometimes we do have to put it down.
Absolutely.
For a moment, or maybe compartmentalize it, or this isn't the right time because I don't have the internal resources to approach this thing that needs some healing. And that's fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
But like, it's still there.
Absolutely.
There's still work to be done. It just maybe isn't right now.
Yeah, it's like right now I'm focusing on this. Yeah, that came up in the membership the other day, actually. Someone was like, I'm just needing to put this down for right now. I'm like, I am celebrating you in that, because we do need seasons of that. And that knowing of what you need right now in this season of your life is so powerful. So like, take that, please, always.
Yeah. I'm sitting here, feeling really grateful for having been witness to what you just kind of walk through and that work. And, when you sat down in here pre-recording and said, there's this grief coming up, I didn't ask, you didn't tell me what that was going to be about. But another aspect of my grief process, and in some ways, at least initially, I definitely deemed it a secondary loss. But very recently, I've decided to not have kids. And that is something that sometimes even when I hear myself say those words, it doesn't feel like they're mine, because I thought I wanted to have kids until I was 27 years old. Like, I was 100% sure. I couldn't imagine a world where that isn't something that I did. And it started as a trauma response. It started as this very like existential thing for me when my mom got her cancer diagnosis, and then in her dying process, and then after she died when I was 27, I started to question it. But again, in the existential trauma response, it was more around, I couldn't imagine having a kid and having them experience what I was experiencing in that moment.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to have a child that maybe will have to feel what I'm feeling right now with my mom dying. And then it shifted, and it still was like a curiosity I had, but it was the first time in my life I was questioning. And then it separated a little bit from that existential piece where it was more around like, is that something I really want? And then when my sister died, again, kind of a trauma response of like, people in my life keep dying. Why would I bring a child into this world? However, through a lot of my healing, and then I will also say with my ayahuasca experience, and then finding your resources and finding a different level and understanding of what codependency is for me, I've been really intentional for the last year around doing my own work and journaling and therapy and listening and reading books, and is this something I really want in my life? And there's another podcaster that actually did an episode about her grief with losing people in her life and deciding to not have kids. And it was the first time I was listening to her thinking like, oh, these are the words I haven't been able to find yet. And she very much described it as like protecting her peace.
Yeah.
And that resonates a lot for me. And again, did it start as a trauma response? Yeah. And what I think I've come to figure out is, well, one, my whole entire life I've been taking care of everybody else around me. That's my codependency traits. Like that's the role that I play in this world, and not just friends and family, even fucking acquaintances and coworkers, but also I went into a field where I'm taking care of people all the time and thinking that was my calling. And then realizing though that the last 10, 11 years, because my grief journey started about 10 years ago with my mom's cancer diagnosis, I'm just fucking tired. And I'm like ready to not focus on pain every single day. I'm ready to not focus on having to take care of anyone else, because I think I haven't taken care of myself in 34 years, to be really honest. And of course, like I've done therapy and I do these things that are good for me, but I haven't been truly focusing on myself. And I feel like even just in the last 6 months, I've come to a place of it feels so good to be like truly figuring out who I am, finding that capital S self within myself that is different than the role I play and who I take care of. And I'm fucking loving it.
Yeah.
And it's been so crazy to get to a place for me of like, that's a decision that I'm making and I feel so at peace with it. And I never thought I'd get there. Like I thought it'd be oh, is that actually how I feel? Is that just a product of trauma and grief that I've experienced? And my very best friend in the whole entire world, she just had her first kid 3 weeks ago. And I thought if there was a time that I was going to regret my decision or start to question my decision, it was going to be through her pregnancy or after she had her son. And I haven't felt it.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. And I've been able to let go of some of those expectations of who I thought I was going to be at this point in my life and not hold on to it and not have regret by that. And there's grief in it, because if you had told me 10 years ago this is what I would be talking about today, I would have said you're fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Because I just knew for sure for so long that's what I was supposed to do in this world. And it's so powerful. And I'm going to share a little story too about this. And it came up as I was kind of doing the visualization with you. So 2 older sisters, one has since died. I have another older sister. They've both been on the fence about having kids forever. And I judged it. I was like, well, you're not going to make me an aunt. Like, how fucking dare you? I was the only one in the family of the sisters that were like, oh yeah, like you're having the kids, Claire. You're going to be the one having the kids. My mom used to talk to me about her like deep sadness that 2 out of 3 of her kids didn't want kids. And she would talk to me about, what I do wrong as a mother, that 2 of my kids don't want to be mothers. And her and I, many years ago, took a trip to Paris. And at that point, I mean, you can get these all over nowadays, but I don't know if you've ever seen, they're like the toys. That's the giraffe.
Oh, yeah.
Sophie. Mm-hmm. So Sophie's like a French toy. And my mom, we were walking down this street and she saw this children's store in Paris, and she went in and she bought the Sophie giraffe, and she was like, this will go to my first grandchild. And at that point, we're like, well, it's going to be me because no one else is having kids. Right. And I've been lugging that toy around since that was in 2012. All the places I've lived, and from the East Coast to the West Coast, and from different apartments and houses. And just in the last 6 months, when I've really started to come to terms and be really at peace with my decision to not be a mother. And it's not about not loving kids. I have so many friends with kids, and I have really, I love being like auntie. Yeah. And that's like, I think so many people think if you're choosing not to have kids, you don't like kids. And it's not the case. It's just, again, I'm even questioning saying this because I feel like some people think it's so selfish, but like I'm choosing myself. Mm-hmm. I mean, that feels so good for me. Anyway, I found this Sophie toy a few months ago and I gifted it to my best friend. And it was in the original like red bag from Paris, and wrote my best friend this little card about it. And it was hard. It was like very emotional because I'm also letting go of a piece of my mom. Yeah. And it just felt so right. And it feels good even, seeing it in her nursery now and be able to give it to somebody who, has chosen this path. And the grief that is very much there for me around just a life that I'm not choosing anymore. Yeah. And both are true, right? That's what I really want to be able to focus in on, is like, just because there's grief doesn't mean it's not the right decision.
Right. Doesn't mean that it's wrong.
It doesn't mean it's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. I feel so seen by your share, honestly, because that's what I came to realize this week too, was when I really tap into like, I need to be a mother. I'm supposed to be a mother. It's like not mine. It's my family's. And not that they're outwardly being like, you need to have kids, but it is this idea that was placed by society, really, too.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's like, what gets to happen when I put that down? Mm-hmm. And parallel that I was seeing in your share too is what I saw from the women in my family was that they gave up themselves to be mothers. Yeah. Right. They went from children to mothers, basically. Yeah. Young immediately. Age. Yeah. And there was always this like longing, I think, for who am I if I'm not a mother? Mm-hmm. Right. They never got to individuate really. And I realized that I was doing the same thing, but opposite, right? I was myself, but I'm always like, well, who would I be if I was a mother? But I want to be a mother, but I want to be a mother. So breaking that cycle is really just being selfish and not in a negative aspect of that word. If we can really change the way that we relate to that word and saying like, I'm choosing myself right now and my peace in this moment is always going to be the best thing for everyone.
Yeah. And even the concept of choosing peace is such a new concept for me, because I've felt such a like victim to the world and trauma and grief. And so much is outside of my control, but then doing things within myself that again exacerbated this idea of I have no power. And the reason I even was really thinking your mindfulness practice you just walk through, and I even kind of chuckled to myself and smiled when you said that all that part of you wanted was play. Mm-hmm. That just spoke so deeply to me, because I feel like with me finally saying I'm choosing to not have kids. And there's grief to that. And also there's so many other possibilities now that I never considered before when I still thought I was going to have a family or, was on the fence about it. And play's one of them because my whole life, I haven't been a very playful person because of family of origin or trauma. Or my role was, even though I was the youngest daughter, like I was taking care of everybody. I still felt so controlled by myself and feeling like I needed the hypervigilance, right? The false sense of control that everything around me was okay, so nothing bad happened. And so it's exciting for me and to think about that inner part of you to say like, play is a goal.
Yeah.
It is for me at the age that I am right now. It is a goal. And I love the idea of what that could be in this decision of this is the path that I'm choosing to take now. And I love it.
I love that for you. I'm celebrating you in it. Play has been my work for like 5+ years. How can I play more? And it was so cringy and hard at first, but it's getting easier. It's getting easier.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you
play.
So much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, we're going to end on play.
I know. I love it. I think we should too.
Well,
your podcast title, Codependency Alchemy. Your Instagram handle is a little different. It's not Codependency Alchemy.
It's not. It's my name.
Yep.
Yeah, so Alyssa Zander, but that was taken. So when you spell out Alyssa, there's a couple extra A's in there. But yeah, it should pop up for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Is there anything else?
I'm just so grateful. Yeah, grateful for your invitation to collaborate in this way. And we were pretty overjoyed that we live in the same city when Claire reached out. And we didn't realize it at the time.
No. I knew you were in the Pacific Northwest, but I had no idea we were in the same town. So that's huge. It was really special finding that out. To do this in person.
Absolutely. Just such an honor. So thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for letting me be here. And I'm excited to witness all the ways that we get to play moving forward.
I love that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So that's all for this week's episode on Nothing Happens for a Reason. Thank you for being here and listening. We'll be back with a new episode next Thursday. And if you find value in these conversations, please subscribe and consider leaving a review. It truly helps others find our community. And if you know someone who might find solace or understanding here, whether they're experiencing grief or seeking to better understand grief, please share this podcast with them. I appreciate your support deeply. Until next time.